Okay, it makes perfect sense now why they, after, like, the salad support came out, it makes perfect sense now why they chose to ban this card. The fact that this works this way is kind of silly. I got cooked by salads because they started their turn with Kaiser and then went full combo to protect from their normal end board. Can you not nib at all under Kaiser Coliseum? That cannot be right. You cannot? Huh? What am I listening? Hold up. Let's read this card. 1 second, dude. If there's one or more monster on the field of the controller of this card, his or her opponent cannot place a monster on the field if his or her number of monsters would exceed the number of monsters that are on the field of this card's controller. So you can't because you tribute the entire board. No, that doesn't make any sense because that only applies if they have a guy on their board. If you nib them, you wipe their board. In what world can you not nib under Kaiser? You cannot nib under Coliseum. Why not? Why not? Huh? Can I activate the effect of Nibiru? This has an entry. While Kaiser Coliseum is applying, can I activate the effect of Nibiru the Primal Being? The effect of Nibiru the Primal Being can be activated if the number of face-down defense position monsters and other monsters that cannot be tributed is lower on your field than your opponent's field. For example, you can activate Nibiru the Primal Being effect under the following situations. All monsters on the field are face-up, and only your opponent controls a monster that cannot be tributed. There are 2 face-down defense position monsters on your opponent's field, and 1 such monster on your field, and all face-up monsters on the field can be tributed. The only face-down defense position monster on your is on your field, and only 2 monsters that cannot be tributed are on your opponent's field. However, by contrast, you cannot activate Nibiru the Primal Being's effect in the following situations. All monsters on the field are face up, and all of the monsters on your opponent's field can be tributed. There is 1 face-down defense monster on your field and 1 face-down defense monster on your opponent's field, and all face-up monsters on the field can be tributed. This would make sense because you would tribute your opponent down to 1 and you have 1, and then you would summon your Nib as a second monster, which you can't do under Kaiser. This one makes perfect sense. But this one does not, because you tribute your opponent down to 0, then you can summon a monster because Kaiser only applies if there's a monster on the opponent's side of the field. If the only face-down defense position monster is on your field, and the only monster that cannot be tributed is on your opponent's field, you can activate. Brother, can you nib your opponent if you control no monsters and your opponent controls a monster that can be tributed and a monster that cannot be tributed? Can you nib? You can nib there, yes. And this is like an official OCG database ruling. And this is like not even mistranslated. Well, all monsters on the field are face up and only your opponent has a monster that cannot be released. Release is the direct translation word for tribute. What the fuck? I'm honestly confused as to why you can't nib on a full board that can be tributed. I still cannot understand the logic behind it. Because the only thing that this is lacking is like a reasoning, a logic behind it. I guess this is like the reverse of the Kaiju Slumber shit, right? Because you're allowed to Kaiju Slumber while your opponent has a Kaiju on board, despite the fact that all Kaiju say that you can only control 1 Kaiju. Interrupt the Kaiju Slumber can be activated even if there is a Kaiju monster already on the field. In that case, the effect will destroy all monsters on the field normally, and then special summon 2 Kaiju monsters from the deck with different name to each player's side of the field. But like Nib also tributes then summons, right? So this is like the reverse to it. Tribute as many face monsters on the field, and if you do, oh, it's simultaneous. There's no universe, it's because it's and if you do. Actually, that actually makes so much fucking sense. It being an and if you do means that the game treats the summon and the tribute as simultaneous. Well, no, because they have a guy on their board and you're summoning a guy. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I do not see the logic here. I'm not even joking when I say this does not make sense. It just doesn't. I'm not gonna lie, this has to be the strangest ruling I've come across in recent times. Let me try to think what the logic of this would be. It's so flawed. It's insanely flawed, but I think what the logic of it is, so because Kaiser Coliseum says, right now there's a guy on my board, and because there's a guy on my board, this part of the effect of Kaiser is applying. No matter what the circumstance is, if the way you're resolving a card that does it all in one simultaneous action, then at that point, you're not allowed to apply an effect that would break this rule, even if it clears their board. You would have to clear their board, then in a new chain use an effect. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I still don't agree with it, but it does make sense. It's able to say, oh, this effect is going to make it, so I have 0 and they will attempt to summon 1, which breaks this rule of Kaiser. But I don't think the game is able to look far enough ahead to say, their card will put mine to 0, which will then turn off the Kaiser Coliseum effect, which is why Kaiser Coliseum prevents you from nibbing and prevents you from super polying with their whole board. I still think it's dumb, but I understand the logic behind it. It's kind of the same Tikaboo-esque situation, right? The game is able to see, oh, you're attempting to link a fiend into a link 1 fiend. Therefore, you can't do that because you can't attempt to put another fiend on the board because you control a fiend and there could be only one. But it's not able to look further ahead enough to say, well, you're removing a fiend to summon a fiend. Therefore, we'll only control 1 fiend anyway. I'm going to be real, bro. If Kaiser was legal in TCG and I was playing it, and I have Kaiser on the board or some shit like that, and my opponent goes Nib, I'd say, you know what? Yeah, bro, that makes sense. You should totally be able to do that. This only happens with simultaneous effects? Yes, because I don't think Kaiser Coliseum... Because Kaiju Slumber... Actually, Kaiju Slumber might be an end if you do. Kaiju Slumber says... Then. Does anyone in chat right now have Kaiju Slumber crafted? Let's boot up Master Duel and test this shit for science, bro. I'm just going to put Kaiser Coliseum in my deck. I'll put guys on the board, and we'll just pass back and forth. I'm genuinely curious. Kaiser Coliseum. Okay, so I have 3 of this. I should very much decraft those. I'll just put like a bunch of consistency cards and then just put a bunch of guys. There you go. My deck's legal. Okay, let's try this. Actually, the best way to do it is to do gift exchange, right? Top share. Reveal 1 card from your deck and place it on the top of your deck. Then your opponent reveals 1 card from their deck and place it on top of their deck. That's perfect. Yeah, this just says I'm going to top deck the card that I want, and you will also top deck the card that you want. Nice. I'm very down. Let's fucking do it. I'm genuinely so curious about how this works. Full combo. Look at that. Why did he go first? Extrav. Okay, you actually don't have to do anything because I have top share. I can just give you the Slumber top deck. All right. I mean, let's give it a try. I'm gonna top share. You have a hand trap? You have Droll? Oh, he put Max C. I get it. He put Max C because I could just make him draw infinite cards. I get it. All right, so top share. Top share. I'm going to draw Red Archery Girl. You can put Slumber on the top of your deck. Yeah, the Kaiju Slumber. I go normal summon the Beautiful Princess. No effect, thank you. Activate Kaiser Coliseum. And then we just see if he's allowed to activate Kaiju Slumber. Is he allowed to activate Kaiju Slumber? I think that he is because it's sequential. Can he use it? Stand by main. Pause. Oh! He can't! He says I can't! Then I'm confused. But he can Kaiju me. But he can't Slumber. Try just summoning something to the board and then use Slumber. The answer should still be no, right? Still can't? You have like a lot of Kaijus left in deck, right? Yes? That's crazy. So what if I controlled a monster that said it cannot be destroyed by card effects? Okay, let me put an extra guy on board. And I don't think it would work either, right? If I put an extra guy on the board, you still shouldn't be able to Slumber me. I don't think. What's the result? You can't Slumber under Kaiser Coliseum either, despite it being sequential. Because it's destroy all then, which is kind of insane. What's the conclusion here? The conclusion is whether you're using an effect that simultaneously would clear your opponent's board and summon something to your field, or sequentially do so, you can never use it under Kaiser Coliseum. Because there's one or more monster on my field, he cannot place monsters on the field if the number of monsters would exceed the number of monsters that are on my board. Kaiser Coliseum's effect is already being applying, and it's seeing into the future that despite the fact that my board is being cleared, he's going to summon a guy to his board after clearing my board, but it doesn't recognize that him clearing my board turns off the condition for Kaiser Coliseum. That is insane. Can he do it if you have 0 monsters, but he has 1? Yes, because in that case, my Kaiser Coliseum doesn't apply. Because if I don't have a guy on the board, then Kaiser Coliseum is essentially doesn't have an effect. I honestly never realized that Kaiser Coliseum could do this. But that is kind of insane, I'm not going to lie. That is crazy interactions. Good that it's banned, because being able to turn off Nib by just activating Kaiser in a combo deck is kind of silly. I'm not going to lie. Let's test the Nib here. Let me build like an actual deck that's able to fucking combo shit. I'm just gonna make a Salamangreat deck. Yeah, whatever. This is fine. It'll do. Let's try this, bro. I mean, this is kind of wild. I have everything. Do you have the Nib? Surely you drew Nib, right? Because you're playing against Salamangreat. Yeah, you have Nib. Every time, bro. Crazy. All right. So you have to be toggled the fuck on. All right. Summon number 1. Summon number 2. Can Salad summon 5 times? Yeah, it absolutely can. This is 2. Just do this. That's 3. This is 4. And then this is going to be 5. And he just can't Nib. Bro, you just get to play for fucking free, man. What the fuck? Posted it in your Discord? Yeah, he has it. What the fuck, man? And you don't even end on like that crazy of a board, right? Because you can just end on exactly Raging Phoenix Pass. So, bro, you could have Kaiser Coliseum so that they can never fucking nib you. And then you just end on Raging Phoenix with back row. And they can summon a guy. Okay, after like the Salad support came out and shit, it makes perfect sense now why they chose to ban this card. Don't get me wrong, it should have been banned before because it was a floodgate, but the fact that this works this way is kind of silly. Bro, I didn't even know this. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that I know this now. That's like a really fucking insane like ruling interaction to know. Well, thank you for showing me. That was fucking dope. That was actually surprisingly crazy. But yes, this card should have never been unbanned. That should have stayed banned fucking forever.